Welcome to Mental Millennials with your host, Shelby Friesen.
So today I can say welcome back because you're here again. And we're going to do a follow-up episode from the previous, kind of answering questions that people had from reaching out. And yeah, that's literally it. So I've got a list here. We'll just go through the list. We're not like naming who asked these things. It's just a list of ones we thought were important to touch on. So we'll work our way through it. The first is why doctors don't help. So you can kind of touch on that. There's also the philosophy of healing. So if you want to like bring those
What was the question, the actual question though? Like above it?
Oh, that's the question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions as to what business or practice someone should go to?
Yeah. Okay. So basically asking about the healing process and specifically who to find to help heal, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty broad still. But
Yeah, so in order to address that question, I personally...
We're more so giving an answer of the why you would... I feel like an answer of why you would go to a holistic person over just going to a doctor.
Yeah, so first it's important to understand like our philosophy on healing, which would be... And I'll talk from my perspective and you can obviously pipe in.
I'll fucking pipe you, buddy.
Yeah, so people generally, like if you go to a doctor's more or less trained with your physical body, but you're not just a physical body. Your physical body, your emotions, your mentality, and your energy. In recent years, there's been a lot of advancements in being able to measure that energy. And I believe that's what a lot of ancient cultures and, very modern day people call your spirit. And so there's those 4 different parts. So my philosophy is you kind of have to hit all of them from one, like at once, or all of them, like at least address all of them in some way. Because if you don't hit it at all angles, what I think happens is, for example, I don't know, say you address your emotions, but you don't address your physical body. So you're still eating like shit. You're not exercising, spiritually you're not aligned. You still have a bad mentality. Like you're still thinking negative thoughts every day. All you've done is address your emotions at that time. But all those other things that are still haven't been addressed are going to fuck your emotions back up really fast. So you have to kind of adopt a new lifestyle that's going to integrate the healing of all of those things to maintain balance. Otherwise, you'll continue to fall into a pit in one form or another.
Yeah, and I also feel like a lot of practitioners, even in the holistic realm, they tend to believe that what they do is like the best thing. So like you go to one person like, yeah, you just got to do this. This is it. And I'm like, you sort of fall into that, but that's one thing that if I were to have to do it again, I feel like I wouldn't have to spend so much money because I would go in and do these things and think that that's the next answer and then jump off and try something else. But like for instance, I've done a lot of breath work and some of the practitioners have said like, breathing is like, I forget what saying they say. Like you can go like however many days without food, however many days without water, but you can only go like 2 minutes without breath or something. I'm like, okay, I get that. But like, if I'm going to sit here and just breathe and eat McDonald's all day, like how does that really work? So I think you do need to integrate everything. And like, that's a big point is to definitely hit it from all angles.
Yeah. One thing, if I would have to say one thing that I think is not the best, but one thing that is pretty holistic in and of itself is diet. Eating a whole food diet. You get to touch your food. You get to cook your food. You start to be more present in the moment and mindful. Like it brings about more things than just about what you're eating, but also like more appreciation for where everything's coming from. And that starts to foster that lifestyle. So,
yeah. And a lot of people ask, well, everybody thinks that I'm vegan or you're vegan. And I don't classify myself as vegan. I would classify as a whole food, mainly plant-based diet. And people don't really know what that is, I don't think, a lot of times. Because, statistically, vegans aren't actually much healthier than anybody eating a standard American diet. Because there's so many chemical replacements, and people want to eat like the vegan sausages and burgers and all that crap. And it's no better for you than eating the real piece of meat. So as like a whole food plant-based diet, you're really just eating, like, you're just shopping in in this veggie section, like real food stuff without a label. Like, it's pretty simple and
single ingredient. Yeah,
it seems like it's hard and like, how would I make meals out of this? But it's super basic. Like, you don't have to make crazy meals. I think that's just something that's like being played out a little bit as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So yeah, to go down the specific list of healers that I would recommend or that have worked for me, I'm not against modern science in any way. Like, I'm not against going to see a doctor. Sure, go see your doctor, but if he's just going to, fuck you up with a bunch of pills or something, the philosophy is try everything. Like, go to a whole bunch of different types of healers. Don't just go to the doctor, because then you're going to come home and you're going to think, I tried, I'm fucked, it's not working. But that's you haven't done enough. You need to try. Like, when I was super fucked up, I tried 12 different types of healers. And that's not to mention, I went to like between 3 to like 8 or 9 sessions of each one. And that's just within the first, like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks, really. Obviously, I addressed it very quickly and all at once because it was kind of severe. But so I would say, you can go to your family doctor. I'm not against any of that stuff. And then the other important factor was to go in to try to learn about yourself when you're going in to see any type of practitioner. You're not like, you go get surgery, they're stitching you up, but the cells in your body are the things actually doing the healing. If you go to a therapist, they're going to help you explore your emotions and your mentality, but it's your emotions and your mentality. So you then need to go home and do the work. So in doing that, I guess we'll start with a therapist. So a psychotherapist was one of the healers that has worked really well for me. And it's important to go in there and know that, like, you're paying the money to be there. You're there to soak up the knowledge that they have and how they can help you learn. So I found it helpful when you're looking for one to do that, address that with them and say, look, I'm here to learn about myself. Is there something tangible that you can let me bring home, like some type of exercise or something? The first few sessions will probably just be like getting your life story out to them anyway. But after that, psychotherapist, diet and lifestyle is huge. So general diet and lifestyle stuff. I think a good way to start even on the diet and lifestyle stuff would be a naturopath doctor, because they'll kind of, they might help you out. They might do some tests, figure out things that you didn't know from those tests. Personally, I believe in a whole food plant-based diet. You can, we'll link some of that stuff. Shelby and I work with Nicolette Richer out of Whistler, BC, Canada, and we'll link that in the post. And she has a great book on all that stuff, and we'll also link some other books to explore that. Yeah, and then other things in lifestyle would be a lot of reading. And like, you don't always have to see someone. Like, if you're in a bad place, go see people, but also things like just reading books, becoming more interested in it, just reaching out for little things like little Googles and books and stuff can help with meditations and with daily routines and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I found it nice to use guided stuff too at the beginning. I have the Deepak Chopra app, I think it is. And I've had that for years. I used it a lot like earlier because he would talk, and it's like comforting to have that instead of just it might be hard at the beginning to sit there and try and do it alone, but some of the guided stuff is nice if it's like your first time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's tons of stuff out there. And a couple of people reached out and said that they have been doing that, just a lot of like self-administered stuff, which is great. If you're already doing that, then you're in a very self-aware position. So that's amazing. But yeah, just like keep putting in the work and keep doing it. And then don't stop there just with the self-administered stuff. Keep going. And like, it's one thing to do things yourself, but it's also one thing to go find healers or mentors in that area that can help you grow further. And just be happier.
Also, beyond the just like seeing practitioners one-on-one, I think doing some of the group stuff is helpful too. If you want to go to like the breathwork people, you can go one-on-one, or they hold circles where you can go on a Friday night and there's 20 people, or you can go on some retreats. I've been on a couple of men's retreats, and you tend to meet a lot of people who are going through the same things or have been through similar things, and it's sometimes nice to connect with them on the same level, right? Everyone's kind of like, I don't know. It's usually nice and it's comforting, and you get to hear other people's stories, and it's usually inspiring for you too, to see all the people that are come out. And I find that helpful. Make friends kind of like that might have the same values as well as you. Yeah,
that's actually some of the biggest value I've gotten out of
and you're like
many practices.
And you're like fully immersed, right? You go out there like you have nothing else to do. Like you've paid, you go, like it's just you, and you got to figure out your shit for 3-4 days, however long the retreat is. And I usually get a lot out of those, as opposed to just, and it's different. You get different stuff out of those than you do a one-on-one.
Yeah. So also something to note maybe for people is if you are going in and trying something like breath work or like anything that could be offered in a group, is maybe try both. Maybe try the group setting and the single options.
Yeah, I do. I would suggest that too, because I know a lot of people who do like a lot of the single stuff, it'll just do the retreats, but like I like to do both. You definitely get different things out of each. And sometimes that stuff can be hard to find as well, which is something I never really thought about. Like those aren't just like, I don't know, the retreats and stuff aren't really blasted out that publicly. Like sometimes it's hard to figure out where those might be or local to you or whatever. So I'll try to kind of keep up on that stuff and post them when they come up for people.
Yeah, at least in the Vancouver area. Now I guess a little bit of Bali if people could get there financially and whatnot.
Yeah.
We can post links and stuff about that and direct connections. Other things that that have helped me that I think are huge. So psychotherapist kind of for the mental and emotional stuff. For physical, look into some dietary stuff, specifically whole food, plant-based. Other lifestyle stuff, I would say exercise is pretty obvious, whether it's yoga or going for a run for 5 minutes a day or stretching in the morning, just like get out there and move your body, get your body moving start with, I don't know, even if you want to start with half an hour a day, just 5 days a week, just like do something.
Yeah. And you can I feel like you'll be able to tell a little bit with what you need, depending what's going on with you. Like for me at the beginning, I just ran a lot because I felt like that's the only thing that could like overcome like the stress and anxiety that I was having. It was like, if I were to sit there and do yoga, I was just going insane. Whereas like the running was enough to like overcome that feeling.
It's like you're breathing through it.
Yeah. It would like overcome that feeling inside of me. Whereas like now I really enjoy doing yoga and other more calming things. So just feel different things out. You just got to try and see what feels good for you.
Yeah. That kind of covers physical, mental, a bit of emotional. On the mental and emotional stuff, I also think a daily practice is huge for me, at least. So integrating, it can be the tiniest thing, tiniest thing. So some people might feel like they can't get into the habit of doing something, like they'll book, they'll book a meditation or yoga or something session twice a week. And what is that? That's like, I don't know. That's basically what that would equal to is like 20 minutes a day, because you're going for like an hour and a half or whatever twice a week. So instead of doing that and finding it harder to get to that because it feels like this big, hour and a half thing that you have to go somewhere and do, I think it's even more impactful just to try 20 minutes. Wake up, think of 3 things that you're grateful for, and then do yoga for 3 minutes, which is, basically it's a stretch. Just get up and stretch, and if you think about it in terms of like 3 things, like just take 1 minute to think of 3 things that you're grateful for, take 3 minutes to stretch your body and move around, maybe do a 3-minute little meditation on positivity or something. And maybe we'll do an episode on some of the meditations that I use, and then do like just 5 to 10 minutes of reading a book that you think is healthy for you and learn a little bit. And that's it. Like that could be the most simple morning routine. That's, 15 to 20 minutes, and you deserve 15 to 20 minutes out of your day. If you can't, you as a human fucking being deserve that, and to give that to yourself. So that's huge. I think the daily routine and practice, that's doing the self work. If you don't come home from these healers that you're paying for, it's worthless if you don't come home and actually do the work and put that, like, integrate it.
Yeah, I think doing it daily is big. It's really hard to do at first, but you notice it a lot. Like if you do it daily and then you take 2 days off, you're like, holy shit, I need to get back and do that. And yeah, I think as hard as it is, like, but just start small and just make that a habit. And then you can start kind of growing and either, doing more or trying different things or whatever it is.
Yeah. Like I started with doing 3-minute meditations 3 times a day, and then I upped it to 5 and then 10 and then 15, but you disperse that 3 times a day. It's not easy, it is easy. It becomes much easier. Now I can sit for 2 hours sometimes and just do it. And then lastly is the energy and spiritual stuff. That's, for some people that's maybe out of comfort zone or something that they don't believe in. So Shelby, maybe I'll let you talk about your experience with the energy stuff for people who may not believe in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess, like growing up and stuff, I never really gave a shit about that stuff, or just, you kind of blow it off and it's whatever. I guess weirdos and shit do that, you think. So when I started seeing a naturopath, that was the first kind of like holistic turn I took from a doctor. And I just kept going in there and I was so like lost and messed up. And he's like, man, you just need to see my mom. I'm like, okay. So she's an energy reader, all this stuff. And I didn't believe in it. I was really skeptical about it. But when I went, it was like the stuff that you just can't not believe it. She tells you I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. You lay on her bed. She will just touch your ankles.
On her bed specifically. It sounded pretty creepy.
On the bed.
Touch your ankles.
Holy shit. So I lay on the bed, and so she'll just like put her hand on your ankle or your knees or like kind of just your joints and feel and write things down. And I was a little bit like, I was a little bit weirded out and uncomfortable because I just wasn't sure what to expect. Like, what the hell is she going to tell me? And the stuff that she said, it's just like she's explaining to you how you're feeling, stuff that you don't even know really how to comprehend. And then things that, like, there was things in there that I've never even talked to people before about my family and like my dad and things like that I was just like, holy shit. Like I was crying. I couldn't really believe the stuff she was saying, but it's all true. Like it's all stuff that you already know. Like there's nothing you can't, there's no way you can't not believe it pretty much. I would be surprised if you didn't. So I think it was good though for that as like another opener for me. Once you experience something like that, then you can go, it just helps you with all the other things. Then you believe, and then you can go and try other things, and it makes you be like, it just opens a new door really. So I think that was really big for me is if you are unsure of that stuff, there's certain practitioners like an energy reader, that might be better to start with, because then you go in there and they give you that, like, it's just validating really. I don't really know.
I think that's I think that's important. It just goes back to like the try everything rule. Like even if you aren't sure about it or don't know, like I hear a lot of people saying that they don't know. It's not about knowing. You don't have to know. You just have to try and try everything. And then you'll figure out what works for you, and you'll grow, and you'll believe in all sorts of new shit that you never knew it was even existed.
The knowing thing was really big for me too. I spent a lot of time like trying to just know what was going on. And I think that's another thing that just comes from the Western medical system. Like you think that you're supposed to just go into the doctor and they're just going to know, and then they're going to tell you and you're going to know. And I think it's a lot more than that. And the more that I started seeing people, the more you realize how much of like a whole approach it is from your body, and not like your whole self, your whole life, like all of that comes into play, and you start to realize you got a lot more shit going on than you ever thought you did.
Yeah, and even for those who are more comfortable with just specific Western medicine and doctors and very, very traditional stuff, is you, even with that's the same thing. You also have to try plenty of times. Like, you know, I've read and been like on the edge of so many stories where people will go in and they'll get one diagnosis from one doctor and then they'll go to like 8 different ones, and each one will give them a different diagnosis, and sometimes so drastically different that what they're trying to get you to do, whether it's a drug or whatever type of healing they're trying to recommend, could possibly kill you. Yeah. Like, and be super damaging. So that's why it is so important to go to so many different people. And there's plenty of stories, where like the first doctor will just diagnose you, freak you out, he thinks you're dying or something, and then by the time you get to the 8th one, and each time you're kind of getting one that's a little bit more specialized in the area, that's starting to become a common theme that people think it is. You'll get to the last one and they'll just be like, oh no, you're fucking fine.
Yeah, I think that way with the doctors too kind of starts to open you up to new, to being open to new things as well, because you start to realize that they don't have the exact answer and they actually don't know.
And that's what I mean by like, go in expecting to learn about yourself and treat it that way, and know that, like, I don't know, I think of a doctor as like one chapter in a book. You're not reading the whole fucking thing until you get 8 more opinions. Yeah. So energy readers, hard to find, really hard to find. Will possibly could connect people if they reach out personally. Craniosacral, which is kind of an energy healing, same thing happened with that, with myself and with Emma. I believe in it, and I was going, and I've had crazy experiences with that. And Emma also, who is kind of new to it, she came in and she may not have understood what was what exactly happened, but just felt amazing after. Craniosacral has been big. Hypnotherapy, again, I don't know if hypnotherapy would be something you do regularly, but that helped me recover some repressed memories, and I think it's a good thing to try. I was thinking about going in for fascia therapy. Oh yeah, myofascia. Yeah, or something.
It's like a really deep tissue massage. Yeah. I'd like to do that as well.
Yeah. So and then like meditation classes, and so that's kind of all the things, and I've used some other ones too, but those are all the things that I would recommend. And the biggest recommendation is really just thinking about the philosophy of healing and just trying everything in kind of a condensed period. Like, try to go to, I don't know, minimum, I would say 1 type of practitioner like per week, or like every second week or something, if you can. And then also breath work too was huge for me.
And I also feel like to test them a lot of times too, some of the group things are nice. Like, even
because they're cheaper too.
Yeah. Dylan just sent me I've wanted to do it for a while, like a sound bath, like sound healing one. And there's one in Fort Langley next Friday, $35, hour and a half. And you sit and you get to do it. Whereas like if you were to go and do a one-on-one for that, it would cost you way more money, and it gives you a really good idea of what it might be like, or if you like it. Yeah.
And like another example of that is craniosacral. I didn't really know what it was. I asked another healer about it, I just asked another healer about like, what are other things I could try? And one of them just mentioned, I've tried this and had a good experience. So, that's another thing, is just asking people, healers you're already seeing. And then before even booking an appointment, I went to a free intro talk.
Yeah,
totally free.
There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it was like 2 hours long. I got to understand exactly what it was, and they did a reading right there in front of us. And if you wanted to have one there, you could do it. And, they gave did a meditation with everybody. So lots of value out of it. You could have got a free reading, that kind of thing. So just don't just sit in your room and just think, I can't afford anything. Get out there. There's tons of options that you can do that are very cheap, that cost equal to a fucking cup of coffee.
And I always used to be really scared of going to these things because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to show up. It's going to be weird. And like, I'm really not into it, but everybody's there for the same reason you are. Maybe, you don't have the exact same problem, but everyone's there because they want to, they want to have a good experience. They're looking to try something. And like, I've never had a bad experience going to one of these public events or workshops or whatever you call it.
Me neither. And I've been scared almost every time too.
Yeah, every time. And it's like, even though like you walk in and the people for us, I feel like we're always probably the youngest people at them. Quite often it's older people, but that even makes them more curious to know about you and want to ask. And they're like, oh, like, what are you doing here? And like, they're always happy that you're showing up and you're young and you're taking control of your life. And I've always had a really good experience. So I think...
Even asking questions too, it's funny because as adults, it seems that a lot of us are more scared to ask questions now than we were when we were 5.
Yeah.
Which is when they start teaching you all the rules, like common stuff. It's like, if you have a question in the room, it's likely, and you're not asking it, it's likely everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So like, just ask.
Yeah. No, for sure. Okay. So this will be more just about your stuff, I think. So how did you discover that you had it?
How did I discover that I had it? I think for somebody if you really want the full answer to that, then obviously listen to the last episode of this. But basically it pretty much, I guess, lived in me for about 20 years. Like I knew something was wrong for many of those years, but I didn't know what it was. So the specific moment of figuring out what it was through just seeing multiple practitioners like we just talked about. So I started with any kind of therapist or counselor I could get to because I just thought I was fucked. And then, I took me probably about 5. And then I started seeing a common theme where people are like, oh, that kind of sounds like dissociative disorder or complex PTSD. And after you get the same thing kind of recurring like a couple times, then I went and found some specialists, and then I had 3 specialists. I just couldn't afford paying for all 3 and going through, because you kind of have to go through multiple sessions in order to get your story out, in order to get a diagnosis type thing, or for them to like know. So I dropped 1 and then stuck with 2 and then went to both, and then finally both of them diagnosed me with both of those things. And that's
Okay. And then how often does it happen?
So before I knew what it was, I thought it only happened like, I don't know, 7 to 10 times. After I knew what it was and worked my way through my life and my experiences, phases of life, and when it would happen, probably closer to about 30 times.
Okay.
So how often totally depends on where I'm at. Like if I'm going through periods of high stress,
that would have been like a couple times a year, maybe.
Yeah, couple, but
maybe sometimes more so.
More of it was condensed between the ages of 13 and 17, 18, around there. Probably 20 or more of the episodes would have been in there. So a few times a year type thing. But then after that, there's been, more than that. Yeah, more than a few times a year. And then there's been only a handful of episodes since.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people realize that when you think that, once you realize you're kind of feeling, you'll always know you're kind of feeling something's off. And then once you start to dig into it, you'll think back and be like, holy shit, this was like,
this caused this, or this made me feel like this way.
Yeah, I've been feeling this for a long time, and then you'll start to open up and remember more stuff.
Yeah, like for me, it made sense. Like I was really quiet as a child, like in public, like really, really shy to the degree that sometimes I just wouldn't even fucking talk at all. And that's like a common thing of some of the traumas that I've been through.
Yeah.
Another one was just like this unknown anger. I was fucking angry, like super angry. And I just like had no reason in the world to be angry. And that also is a very common thing of some of the traumas. So
can you tell when it's happening?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's
yes and no.
Yes and no. When it happens, I experience basically your basically I black out and I experience, like I explained, like these slivers where it's like best explained as a flashback, but when I come out of the blackout, that I remember, I get like an impression. So it's like I black out, there's no memory or anything. And then when I come to, it's like it lays this blanket over me, and I soak in this impression, and I just kind of have this knowing or feeling of what had happened during the blackout. Sometimes that includes visual and spatial awareness, which is those pieces of slivers where it's just like a quick flash. So that's why I don't really know whether I should describe it as a flashback, because the way I remember it is like watching a video. Like I know the order of how it happened. Mm-hmm. So it's not really like a random flashback, because I can kind of put it on a timeline, and it's almost like I know what it felt like in that moment. Mm-hmm. So,
but in the moment you don't know. It's not till after.
But in the moment I don't know. No, it's not like I'm sitting there. In some moments I may have known, like in really hardcore episodes, I completely black out. But in other episodes, like in some of the fights I've been in, it just kind of throws me in the back seat. And then there's like a little window, and I'm just like, it's looking like I'm looking through it like this, like as if I'm 20 feet in the back of my head, and I'm looking through a little TV screen of myself doing shit. So in those moments, I'm sure I might have known, but it's not like you're thinking that.
You're not thinking about knowing it.
Yeah, like if it happened now, I might know because I know what it is. But at the time, I didn't know that I even had a disorder or anything at all, like anything mental going on.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like if there's another one,
then I would be more conscious of it. Yeah, hopefully. Or just hopefully there's not another one.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Do you feel balanced day to day? Then can you still, like, if you're feeling balanced day to day, holy, then can you still, like, do you still have episodes?
Well, I guess that depends on the definition of feeling balanced, but generally no. No, and like, this isn't the same for everybody with anything, including dissociative disorder, but also anything else, right? For me, I'm lucky to have very specific triggers. So my triggers are high stress and physical confrontation, and then alcohol is almost mainly alcohol. I mean, other substances might affect it, but I haven't had bad experiences with other substances. But alcohol makes me more porous, so it makes these triggers and other things more likely to happen, and it makes it easier. Like if I got in 10 fights when I was sober, I might black out and freak out in 2 or 3 of them. But if I got in 10 fights when I was ass hammered, I might black out and, I shouldn't say blackout. I might actually like dissociate, have an episode and switch, maybe 7 out of 10. So it just makes it more likely to happen. Okay. So it's not a trigger because it's not present all the time, because it happens without alcohol too.
Yeah.
I guess like pretty much no, because my definition of balanced is to be more or less stress-free and to, generally be balanced and grounded. So for me, like being in nature and feeling like nature frequencies and stuff is, that makes me feel grounded. And if I'm in a good spot, I'm not going to be stressed. If I'm in a good spot, hopefully I'm not getting in fights. And also like normally people tend to drink more if they are stressed. So like if I don't have any of those things and I'm feeling good, then it's just not really going to happen.
And then when did you first realize you needed help?
I think I kind of knew that I needed to dig around and figure some shit out many years ago when it would happen in my teens, but I just kind of didn't. Just kind of didn't. So I guess I kind of knew then. And then when it started, and then I kind of thought I fixed it myself for a period of years after doing a lot of self work and taking a year off. And then it came back in a very bizarre way, which is the night I woke up freaking out with that like connection to mom, which again, listen to the last episode. And then after that is when I actually decided like maybe I'm strong enough to go unveil all whatever is inside me. So I guess that is when I figured like, okay, maybe I didn't heal it. Maybe I should go get some help. I guess that would be when I knew. when I had already thought I healed it and then realized that, oh shit, it's still here.
Yeah, I think.
And then I kind of also suppressed it for a year. Like, actually, I'm going to read here. Give me a sec. I'm going to read this quote out of this book. So this I think is actually relevant. So this is out of the book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And I just read this to Shelb. So this is I'm just going to read it. The following poem speaks to us all. It's called Autobiography in 5 Chapters. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. 3, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. 5, I walk down another fucking street. So I guess, yeah, like in that year after I had known that I needed help, I guess I would have been in 3.
Yeah.
Where I fall in, maybe 2. I fall in, I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it happened again, obviously like 2 months ago or 3 months ago now. And then
that would have been 3 because you had the immediate get out.
Yeah, and that would have been 3. Yeah, and then I had the immediate get out. So, and now moving on to just not living that lifestyle that is going to happen again.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that will happen. I mean, and from what I see, really, like everybody truly does go through those steps. So I don't know. I like that. That's a really, really valuable little poem there.
Yeah. There's some things that people shared with me that that aren't necessarily questions, but things that I think need to be addressed.
Yeah, this one's kind of like, well, this is a share and a question. So the things going on in my head and overthinking things has made it really hard for me to form intimate relationships. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind is like how my thought process when I was experiencing that was, I don't know if I touched on this in the last episode about like reading all the Gandhi books when I was younger.
I don't think so.
And the biggest takeaway out of reading all the Gandhi books was that Gandhi approached everything as a test. So he was raised a vegan or vegetarian, and everybody was eating meat and they was way stronger than him and all this shit. So then he wasn't like, it was against his religion to even eat meat, but he went against his religion just to test it, just to try it, because he knew that worst case he could come back and continue eating the way he was. And he did that with diets and he did that with everything in life. Is that, you know, you go out, you try something, if it doesn't work, then
go back
and
try
do
something else.
So I see things as a test. So when I did kind of experience that with the intimate stuff. And I think I just kind of knew that I first needed to heal me. So it took me many years just to have enough self-work. So I was balanced alone. And then after that, I treated dating and relationships in the same way. Like it was something to work on. So when I would date people, I would kind of see it as like, okay, like, you know, worst case, I come back and I know I can be balanced by myself when I'm alone. Yeah. So, and then I would just go into them knowing that and just actively trying to work on it. And it took, you know, many years of that before I could have a successful relationship. So.
Yeah, and I think the overthinking thing, I mean, I don't have a successful relationship right now, so I can't speak much to that, but the overthinking thing in my previous relationship was huge for me. And I wasn't even really aware of it at the time, but that's all I thought of. It's like, you know, your girlfriend would go out and I'd be like, I don't even know. I would just think up the craziest shit in my head. Like, okay, she's cheating on me probably with 3 dudes right now, all this shit. And I'm just like, and then it's funny because once that ended and you think like, I mean, not always the same scenario, but then you go and you're like, oh, there's so many people that are going to meet all these people and all this shit. And like, it just doesn't really happen. And then you might kind of realize like, I don't know, it's just a weird thing to think. And in the times, like, I don't really know why it happens or and stuff. But again, it was just a lot of self-work. Like I just wasn't okay on my own and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I've been doing since that relationship is just self-work really. But I think the overthinking thing does make it hard because it stresses you out and it also affects your life. Because you're sitting there thinking all this shit when like you should be enjoying your time alone and not worrying about it, what your partner's doing and things like that as well.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even recognize they're in that space.
No.
They're just kind of like in their anxiety and freaking out, but they're not able to step back and see it and be able to be like, you know, that's where the logic versus emotion comes in, where logically you should know that you shouldn't be feeling the anxiety, the relationship anxiety, like, or not shouldn't, but you don't need to.
No.
Like if you're okay with yourself, you develop a philosophy around it and a logical way of thinking around it so that you can remove yourself from your emotion and not have to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This one too. I feel like I want to open up about my experience with mental illness, but I feel like what I experienced isn't validating enough.
Yeah, I think that one's really, really important to address. For one, it is validating enough, whatever you're experiencing. And I would encourage everybody to open up about it. So for me, after we did the last episode, I did a write-up and I posted a portion of that and everything on social media, Instagram, Facebook. You know, and a lot of family and friends most family and friends didn't know anything about it. So yeah, and I, you know, it was a little bit, you know, definitely a little bit nervous and got some anxiety from it and all that kind of stuff. But all in all, it was good and it was relief. It felt good to just like, it's like, boom, it's out there. Okay, now I can fucking move on and just be me and just, you know, people can ask me questions about it. I'm fucking okay with that and it's all good. So yeah, it was a good experience. But for feeling that, like even I felt emotions of embarrassment, shame, guilt. And yeah, like the same, and that came a little bit from feeling like, are these things worthy of what I experienced kind of thing. But you got to be strong and just, again, the whole logic versus emotion thing, know logically that that it is totally validating. And it's an important thing to note is that people don't perceive things the same. People don't perceive pain and suffering and trauma in the same ways. So it's not like we're all on one fucking ruler and, you know, I'm here and someone else is here and someone else is here. And because he's here, then we two aren't validated. We're not even on the same, that's not even a thing. Like we're not even on any kind of, you know, gauge or measurement system. Everybody experiences it very differently. In fact, people that maybe experience less could be feeling a lot worse than someone who experiences something that is considered by other people to be more traumatizing.
Yeah. And I think too, even if you maybe, you know, maybe you've only realized you've had anxiety a couple times or it's just starting to kick in or whatever I'm just using that because that's what I know. But, it's almost better to speak up about it sooner. Like the longer you wait, the more you're just kind of putting everything off and like, oh, I'll just see, maybe it'll go away or whatever might happen. And I think the sooner you speak up and get comfortable about it, the more like you're just going to feel better faster.
Yeah. So. And just, having that commitment to it. And for the smaller things, I think it actually makes it, if you have been waiting for a while and you're thinking about talking about it, I think those ones, it's my, and this is just my opinion. So don't, you know, I don't want anybody to take this to be their opinion, figure out your own opinion. But mine is that I felt a responsibility to share. I wasn't sharing for me. And I made sure that I was okay with that and meditated on that and was good with it. That it wasn't about me. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about sympathies. It was about pushing it out there because I had a responsibility to do so in case someone else needed help, in case someone else was in my position. And also, so for those people, but also for the people who don't understand, because it's also our responsibility to educate those people who don't understand. Because if they don't, then they could go and possibly do or say or behave in a way that's very damaging to someone else. So by not sharing, it's doing a disservice to others as well. So therefore, it's my responsibility to do that. And I believe that that would help end a lot of the stigma that's going on. So for people who are experiencing maybe something that's in society might not be seen as something that is enough to feel traumatized or feel, depressed or anxiety or whatever it is that you're dealing with. I think it's even more important to share those stories because it addresses the people who don't understand that everyone perceives things in different ways. So like for a story where it's super severe, everyone will be like, oh yeah, I get it. It's, and then for a story that's not, maybe like people just are just like, oh, whatever. But it's like
more so blow it off.
Yeah. But it's like, those are the people you need to address because those people are causing damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, when you do speak about it or post about it or whatever you do, you'll be surprised how many people reach out or say that they're experiencing the same things or they want to talk about it. And that was huge for me. I couldn't believe how many people were experiencing the same things or maybe, I just think it's super important and it's always going to be helpful for somebody. And even for the friends who don't understand, like when I was going through it and people are like, oh, dude, just come party and this and that. And then when you start posting about it and really getting into it and sharing those things, those people start to understand how you're feeling. And, it makes everything a lot better, really. Yeah. And
then they can be there better for you, but also be there better for themselves.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future if something hits them and for others. I had dozens of people reach out and, it was even if it was only one, that would have been awesome. But it was a lot. And it's not like I'm not super popular. I don't have a crazy following or anything. Just fucking normal shit. Probably less following than a lot of people. But and was able to share some of my experiences with other people, resonate with them, share some of the things that I've learned and hear some of the things that they had. And also just talk about practitioners and people who have helped one another heal, which is awesome to be able to do because sometimes it's really hard. And like we've been talking about, it's fucking expensive sometimes. Yeah. So, hearing direct recommendations and experiences from other people is huge too, especially when we've spent fucking $50,000 trying to find these people. It was good.
We've both gotten this question a lot and it's not a question, it's a statement. So people will say that, and this is people are like, oh, I thought you had your life together and all this stuff. You seem like you've got it all sorted out. We were just going to touch on that.
Yeah. So when I posted everything, I had multiple people say, wow, I didn't know you've been through so much shit, or like, I wouldn't think that you specifically would have like gone through this. And after it happened a few times, I was like, okay, that's kind of like a pattern. So I reached out to those people and messaged them and said, just openly, like, why specifically me? Like, why specifically would you think that like I hadn't done that? Just like doing my research pretty much. And and got a lot of the responses were, you seem like a, or you are and always have been like a happy, easygoing and well put together guy. Like you have a good head on your shoulders. Like we were talking about, like, we own businesses and all these other things. Well, yeah. So I don't know. Just want to talk about that and like other people's perceptions and knowing just like that anybody can go through it. And that, it's, for me, it was like a common thing is also that people think that people are good at hiding it. And that's very true. A lot of people I know, that's probably the most true. A lot of people I know are super good at hiding it and are suffering and just scared to share.
Yeah.
For my story is not really like that because I didn't know that I had it. So I didn't know that any of these things were issues.
Yeah.
So like I was going through it and just like having a ball. Like I was still fucking loving life in high school when all these things were happening. In fact, it was probably the funnest time I've ever had.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was happy and easygoing and carefree.
I feel like there'd be a little bit of a low after it would happen. Maybe, you'd be like, holy fuck, what happened? But then like
for a few days,
you just kind of like get over it and keep rolling.
Yeah. And that's one thing, for me, like the whole carefree thing, I think going through shit, I took the perspective of I've already seen a lot of shit. So everything else that people generally think is shitty, like daily stressors. I don't know what that could be. Like, I don't know, you got a test coming up if you're in high school, or you're driving to work and traffic's super shitty, or I don't know, like some kind of like family event that is stressful, or like any kind of stress or bother or something in life that people kind of get emotional about and freak out about seemed like nothing to me. So I was just like, it almost made, I adopted the mindset of like, whatever, like I've been through worse. It hasn't fucking killed me. Like there's no point on worrying about those tiny things. So the traumas and all the things that I've been through actually helped me be that person who people were seeing. And another important one you wanted to talk about was being able to laugh at things. Yeah,
a big thing for us was humor, I think, going through everything we've been through. When crazy shit would happen, we would make jokes about it. And like, that's just carried on, and it's always been something that's helped. Because we wouldn't really stress about it. We'd make a joke and laugh it off. And instead of stressing and freaking out, it was just funny. And like, I remember so many times that stuff happened. And like, I came home one day and the doctor thought I had diabetes, and I told Jaymie and our friend Tim, and they were like shitting their pants laughing. I'm like devastated that I might have diabetes. Like, dude, we've literally been telling you that for fucking 5 years, man. And I'm like, but like, if I would have came home and they took it all seriously, then I'm sitting there stressing about it for a week. It's like, then I'm like, hey, whatever, fuck, I got diabetes. Like, you just get over it and you move on. And
like the time I took you to the hospital 6 times in one day.
Yeah.
That became a joke like literally the next day.
Yeah, like, everything. Like, we joked about it so fast. And like, I think, I don't know, we just didn't hold on to like
even
the stress
after all
of things
this
that long.
Yeah, even after all this shit happened, like Connor, my best friend, and I'd be talking about shit. And like the insanity jokes started coming out right away. Immediately, like literally a week after it happened. And this was like, I was still like pretty low, but it helps. It was, it was funny, and you just gotta, be okay with it, be good with it, and laugh it off. I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've pretty much done that with anything that's happened. Like, even like when our grandma passed away, man, like we've been telling dead grandma jokes for like 15 years now.
And it's funny because people in society, like even when you're saying we were laughing about you maybe getting diabetes, there's so many people in society that would like freak out about that and be like, well, is that funny to you? Like, are you not taking this seriously? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why, who the fuck are they to say that? Yeah. What have they been through to tell us whether it's right or wrong to laugh about something, including death?
And I think the one I noticed the most with, I mean, the dead grandma jokes come off pretty strong sometimes on people, but it's also cancer. Yeah. Like
grandma died from cancer, just so everybody knows.
I honestly forgot that. I didn't even link those two, but the past year since I've been doing some trainings and workshops, a lot of it has been cancer based. It's just a big thing, and it just is so normal to me to talk about now. And like, you say cancer in public and everybody kind of like freaks out and get quiet, right?
It's a morbid, people just see it as like a morbid.
I think people pretty much see cancer as death, I would say.
But also, why do they perceive death as like something so dark?
Yeah, I mean, that's just going to be their own.
That's Western society
beliefs and stuff. But I think, just being able to joke about all that stuff has been super helpful for us.
Yeah, I think on the note of laughing on it, laughing about it, and whether that's like a thing that's right or wrong, because even people listening to us might be struggling to understand why we're laughing about grandma dying. But like, like, for me, I think one of the perceptions, because like if you go to a healer, they're going to tell you that like your condition's super serious and shit. And then you're going to like, Shelby, you used an example earlier where, if you go home to your family and your family's like super serious, and then they're just like, oh my God. And then everyone in the family's stressing and freaking out. And then you're, adopting those traits from your parents, and then you're stressing and freaking out.
It's just like a cycle.
And then everyone's biology and the entire house is fucked up. And then all your systems shut down because you're so stressed out. Whereas like, we come home and we brush it off, we laugh about it. And that laughter and joy actually makes the biology in our body change and be more positive and better and open to healing. So that, and also for me, Just reading a lot. If you haven't read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, I think that's an important read for everybody, to give an Eastern, and it's a monk basically that came to Western society, and this was based on a very, very old Tibetan book, and it's a very modern version.
Yeah.
So it's a good read. But even for me, spending time in monasteries, like I've spent time there and gone there and done meditations with them. I used to do that every week with monks, and they laugh at that shit too. So to me, that's like a sign, like a doctor and shit, who has probably a fuckload of things that they need to heal in their body too. Like, just because they have a PhD doesn't mean that they're not fucked up as well. Who probably haven't really dived into a lot of those things in life to become more self-aware. Like, them saying something should be taken seriously, yet from the other side, here's a monk that's saying the dead opposite. So for me, I take my credibility from that side, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I actually want to touch too on this one. So, thinking that I got a lot of the same responses when I first posted like years ago, saying like, man, I can't believe like you're going through those things as well. And I think people tend to think that if you're going through that you can't accomplish things in life. They think that it like ruins your whole life. And it doesn't. And for me, it almost made things like business easier, because the hardest thing in my life so far that I've had to overcome was my whole fucked up anxiety bullshit. So like, if I could overcome that, everything else seemed easier. And it's been better now. Like, once I've fully kind of overcame it now, doing those things are much easier. But in the time as well, it always was like a struggle to do that stuff. But as soon as I could like get up and get myself to work and get going, I was pretty much good to go. But
after sometimes,
yeah,
because you were pretty fucked up there for like a while.
Yeah,
like and like
for like a year.
Yeah,
but,
so
a lot of it was before. I built, did it before it got really bad. But
oh, you mean during the time when you don't really know what you don't really know what you're experiencing it and not really trying to heal, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that would have been like,
you're still experiencing it every day, but you're still doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, basically like what we just talked about, like me in high school, where it's like, I had it, but that was still the funnest fucking time in my entire life.
Yeah, exactly.
Still fucking amazing. So, and like,
I don't know.
Yeah, another thing I just want to bring up, and it's not super relevant, but it's just the fact that, like a bunch of shit happened and there's like traumatic stuff in my life, but dude, still lived like the fucking most amazing childhood ever, and like teenagehood, and now into our adulthood. Like, it's still amazing, and you got to look back and be grateful for all the things that you have. So, yeah,
sweet.
Oh well, I did get other questions about dissociative disorder, and that are best described actually through art and imagery. So we're gonna post some of those on the post. With that, we'll have this that you guys have clicked on to listen to this episode. Yeah,
I'll just put it like underneath the player and everything.
Yeah, so I'll just do a little write up about what it feels like in the moment of experiencing it. And I've heard and seen visual art that is from bipolar stuff as well, that has like some kind of similar aspects too. So and other things, even like depression and shit. So,
and then I think we're also going to try and put together, like right now we're pretty local based listeners still, so we might try and put together a list of practitioners that we've seen and that we think are good, and do up a section for that on the website, so you can kind of go through and see the different people we've seen and be able to
so it's like
them as
direct well. and also like there's some people if you want an introduction to, and then also we're going to do an episode talking very specifically about each type of healer and our experience with that type of healer, just so you could, I don't know, maybe it would help some people maybe understand it more, or also know what to expect and not be more open to it. And maybe just connect or resonate with any of it.
Yeah. And sometimes it is nicer to go to someone like that, people have been seeing, makes it a little bit more comfortable. But
like even like a psychotherapist, I've went through so many and spent thousands and thousands of dollars. Save yourself some money.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that mine's going to work for you, but
Yeah.
just if you're going to try 3, maybe one of them should be one of the pre-vetted ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's it for today then.
Good.
Okay. Bye.